Gary, Indiana. 2011. The house stood quiet at 3860 Carolina Street. A narrow one-story rental with peeling paint, weather-worn siding, and a sagging front porch. It didn't look haunted. It looked forgotten. But for Latoya Ammons and her 3 children, it would become something far worse than abandoned. It would become alive. They moved in mid-November. Latoya's mother, Rosa Campbell, joined them, a strong-willed woman who didn't rattle easily. But the house gave her pause. It was the air, the cold, a thickness that didn't come from bad insulation. Something felt wrong, but no one said it out loud. The first sign came quietly. Dead flies, swarms of them. Black, bloated buzzing, clustering on the screen porch windows. Latoya swatted them, vacuumed them, sprayed them. Still, they came back every morning, and it was winter. Flies don't swarm in Indiana winters. Rosa muttered that it wasn't normal, but Latoya brushed it off. For now. Then came the footsteps. At night, when the house should have been still, they heard them. Heavy and methodical across the hallway, but no one was there. Rosa checked once, twice, no one. The sound returned the next night. Then the doors began creaking open, one at a time. The basement light flicked on. No one near the switch. It was subtle, persistent. Latoya thought maybe it was the house settling, old wiring. She didn't want to believe it was more, but deep down, she knew. One night, Rosa felt it. She was lying in bed. The door cracked open slowly, not all the way, just enough to let something in. She swore she saw a shadow move along the hallway wall. She froze. Her breath turned visible in the cold. She got up, heart pounding, and checked on the children. All were asleep, but when she passed the basement door, she paused. It was wide open, and a low creak echoed from below. Rosa closed it slowly, locked it. No one spoke of it the next morning, but the flies returned. So did the footsteps and the shadows. Something had noticed them, and it wasn't going away. The cold Indiana winter clung to the air like a heavy shroud, but inside the small Gary rental house, a different kind of chill was setting in, one untouched by the weather. It began with whispers, faint murmurs slipping through vents, curling around the edges of rooms, even when the house stood empty. Latoya Ammons would later recall how the disturbances started small, almost laughable. Strange wet footprints appeared on the living room floor despite no one entering the house. Shadows skittered just beyond her field of vision. Light bulbs exploded without warning. Doors creaked open by themselves, as if beckoning unseen guests. One night, after tucking her children into bed, Latoya heard the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps pacing the hallway. But when she rushed out to confront the intruder, there was no one there. Only the lingering sense that something had been watching her from the darkness. In the weeks that followed, the disturbances escalated. The youngest child, just 7 years old, was found speaking to an invisible entity, his eyes wide with terror. Furniture shifted positions when no one was near. Strange, oily substances began seeping from the vents and walls, coating surfaces like a sickly residue. Whatever had infiltrated the Ammons' modest home was growing stronger, bolder, and it was becoming increasingly clear this was no mere haunting. This was something else, something ancient, malevolent, and hungry. The air inside the Ammons' home had changed. It no longer merely felt cold, it felt predatory. Invisible eyes seemed to watch from every corner, the atmosphere charged with a dense, unrelenting pressure. Each breath Latoya drew was heavy, thick, almost as if the house itself resisted her very presence. It started with small injuries, a mysterious bruise on her daughter's shoulder, scratches across her son's legs that no one could explain. Latoya initially thought little of it until she witnessed her 12-year-old daughter levitate above her bed, her body stiff, eyes rolled back, a guttural growl escaping from a mouth that should have been screaming. The family's nightly terror escalated without warning. Heavy footsteps would stomp through the hallways. Cabinets slammed themselves open and closed violently. The walls groaned under some unseen force. The entire house throbbed like a living, breathing thing, hostile and insatiable. During one harrowing night, Latoya's youngest son was hurled across the room by an unseen entity. The boy sobbed and clutched his wrist, which appeared bent unnaturally, later confirmed to be fractured. Panic consumed Latoya. She could no longer deny it. Something malevolent was stalking her family within the supposed safety of their home. Neighbors reported hearing blood-curdling screams echoing from within the Ammons house at all hours. Yet when they rushed over, the windows were dark and the doors remained locked. The house would stand silent still, as if mocking those who dared approach. As the manifestations grew stronger, the Ammons family found themselves trapped inside a nightmare stitched into their reality. Every room became a battlefield. Every night became a war of survival, and the sinister force festering within their walls had only just begun to reveal its true hunger. Driven by terror and the mounting injuries among her children, Latoya Ammons sought help outside the confines of their cursed home. She rushed her youngest to a local hospital in Gary, Indiana, called Methodist one night, cradling his bruised, trembling body. The medical staff, trained to handle trauma, immediately grew uneasy. The child thrashed violently on the gurney without warning, screaming at unseen assailants only he could perceive. Doctors were baffled. Psychological evaluations were ordered. Physical tests showed injuries inconsistent with typical accidents. Staff witnessed objects in the exam room moving of their own accord. A seasoned nurse would later confess she had seen the boy levitate off the bed, if only for a split second, before crashing back down with bone-jarring force. Since he had arrived displaying physical bruises and injuries, Child Protective Services had been summoned soon after Latoya and her youngest son's arrival. Latoya found herself accused of neglect or worse, abuse. Investigators demanded explanations Latoya could not give. Her tales of shadows, possession, and unseen forces were met with skepticism, even scorn. Official reports, however, began noting oddities. Children speaking in strange, gravelly voices, impossible contortions of their limbs, the overwhelming, oppressive feeling that gripped anyone who entered their home. During a supervised evaluation at Methodist Hospital, a CPS caseworker and a registered nurse witnessed something that defied logic. The youngest Ammons boy, just 7 years old, growled, rolled his eyes back, and then walked backward, up the wall of the hospital exam room. He reached the ceiling, flipped over, and landed on his feet. Both professionals swore under oath that what they saw could not be medically or physically explained. Their official report would go on to validate Latoya's claims and escalate the case beyond earthly explanations. Investigators would later confirm that it was the youngest child who showed the most extreme and disturbing signs of possession, since he had growled, spoke in a deep, unnatural voice, and, most famously, was witnessed walking backwards up a hospital wall by medical staff, defying logic and gravity. One of the earliest and most chilling incidents involved Latoya's 12-year-old daughter, back when she had levitated above her bed with her eyes rolled back, growling, before collapsing unconscious. And yet, despite that terrifying display, no formal exorcism or spiritual cleansing was ever recorded for her. The event, shocking as it was, didn't appear to repeat, unlike her younger brother, whose possession escalated dramatically in full view of witnesses on more than one occasion, though still no official exorcism was ever conducted on him either. Still, one has to wonder, was the force testing its reach? And why did it choose to fully enter one child, but not the other? As for Latoya, the priest that was later assigned to the case believed she was not entirely spared. While she didn't display the same violent manifestations as her son, she was considered spiritually oppressed. The church took it seriously enough to conduct 3 separate exorcisms on her, 2 minor rites and 1 full-scale exorcism. So while the youngest boy appeared to be the main target, Latoya herself was not untouched. Whatever force had entered their home, it had already begun to dig deep into their family's core. Out of desperation and with few options left, Latoya and her mother Rosa approached the local Catholic church. Though initially skeptical, a priest named Father Michael Maginot agreed to visit the home. What he would encounter within those walls would shake even his hardened faith. But that horror would unfold in the days to come, setting the stage for a battle no earthly force could win alone. Father Michael Maginot crossed the threshold into the Ammons home, armed with faith and guarded skepticism. The house seemed to groan as he entered, a deep, unsettling vibration beneath the floorboards. Instinctively, he began to pray under his breath, feeling the air thicken with each step toward the living room. As Father Maginot prepared to bless the home, he noticed peculiar signs. Oil-like substances appeared along the edges of windows and doors, surfaces Latoya and Rosa swore they had scrubbed clean just hours earlier. The blinds rattled as if shaken by unseen hands, despite the stagnant air. A cold, fetid breeze seemed to snake across the room without any clear source. Father Maginot dipped his fingers into holy water and began his blessing. Almost immediately, the temperature plunged. Latoya's youngest boy convulsed on the couch, his eyes wide with terror, as he pointed toward a darkened corner of the room where nothing could be seen. The house responded violently. Lights flickered and died. Heavy pounding erupted from the basement door, though no one was downstairs. Father Maginot pressed forward, sprinkling holy water along the thresholds, commanding the presence to reveal itself. In response, an unseen force hurled a lamp across the room, shattering it at his feet. By the end of the blessing, the atmosphere had shifted. The house seemed to retreat, but not in defeat. It simmered with rage, as if coiling itself for a greater strike. Father Maginot knew without doubt this was not merely a haunting, it was a siege, and the Ammons family was trapped inside enemy lines. The next step would require far greater intervention, the rare and dangerous rite of exorcism itself. With his evidence in hand, Father Maginot submitted a formal request to the diocese. After intense internal debate, the church granted permission for a rare official rite, an exorcism sanctioned by the Vatican. It would be performed not once, but multiple times, each one aimed at unraveling the unseen grip that had taken hold of Latoya Ammons and her family. The first exorcism took place in the rectory of the church. Latoya convulsed and wailed in voices that weren't her own. Her body contorted as the priest invoked sacred names and symbols, forcing the presence to react. Witnesses, including medical professionals and clergy, reported the lights flickering, objects rattling, and an overwhelming smell of decay filling the air. In a second attempt, held back at the Ammons house, the environment fought back harder. Doors slammed without wind, Bibles flew from shelves, and Father Maginot himself reported feeling gripped by an unseen force mid-prayer. Latoya blacked out for several hours afterward with no memory of what she had done or said. Eventually, after the third and final rite, something shifted. The house grew quiet. The children stopped speaking in tongues. No more footsteps, no more levitation, just silence. Latoya and her family moved out weeks later. They refused to return, not even to retrieve belongings left behind. The home sat empty, drenched in its own history. But the story didn't end. New tenants came and went. Some claimed nothing ever happened. Others moved out without a word. Latoya later said she still sometimes felt the presence near her, watching, waiting. And the Ammons house in Gary, Indiana still stands, silent, waiting for someone to ask the wrong question, open the wrong door, or bring the darkness back to life. This has been another case file from Dark Dossiers TV. Stay tuned for the next episode, because some stories don't stay buried.